As a developed country, Japan was able to react quickly to the news of the 8.9 magnitude earthquake and was well prepared in terms of evacuation procedures. But an earthquake of that size and the tsunami that followed was of unprecedented proportions. At its highest peak, the wave was measured at 40 metres, with enough force to push up to 10 kilometres inland. ShelterBox Response Team member Chris Alderson lives in Japan. He was at home when the quake struck.
My experience over the first 24 hours was really quite surreal. Being so used to these tremors, at first I stayed at home. I didn't want to be the one foreigner evacuating his home and being a laughingstock for my neighbours. But after a few minutes, I actually moved out to the street and realised I was the only one in the street who wasn't already there. Here in Tokyo, the damage was limited. Elsewhere, the scale of the disaster was obviously much more serious, and that slowly the true scale of the disaster started to come home.
Within 24 hours, a ShelterBox response team was on the ground. They focused their attention in the north of the country, which was the worst affected area.
The reports indicated that the damage and loss of life was enormous. I mean, to be honest, travelling up was like a journey into some science fiction set. Nothing remained unscathed at all. Articulated lorries lay on factory roofs, fishing boats wedged in the ruins of homes. We had to find out where the need was greatest, where the government was already looking after individuals, and then based on local information, we would then travel out into the hills to try to find people who were maybe cut off from the main government support.
As with all ShelterBox deployments, it was up to those on the ground to determine the most vulnerable people. The government was providing aid and accommodation, but not everyone was able to take advantage of this.
In the village of Nagahama, we found 96 people living in the only 3 homes left inhabitable. And we went up to find these people sort of in small lines, moving in and out of each other's homes to clear rubble, to rebuild the homes which were still standing but uninhabitable. They were very proud people, as many people are in country communities. They wanted to rebuild their lives with their own strength. But at the same time, when you've got minus temperatures in March and a community who are largely in their 50s and 60s and 70s, it's a very challenging atmosphere to try to remain hopeful in.
The team found a clear need in this area and brought in 25 boxes, allowing the families and elderly couples privacy and protection.
These were elderly people who are living in these communities, so they don't go camping. They weren't immediately familiar with the way to put up a tent, but we demonstrated how 1 or 2 could be put up, and then they quickly grew to be fairly adept with assembling the tents. And I think it was also a positive spirit and community building experience for them to work together to put these things up and to feel they had a hand in building their own new small community. They could go somewhere to warm their bodies when they'd become chilled after hours of working outside, and they could sleep there for the initial weeks as their homes slowly became inhabitable. We returned 2 or 3 days later to see if they were being successfully used, and there were plenty of smiling faces there to greet us.